Hello everyone, Mrs. Edstrom here. Hope you guys are all doing good today. We are going to look at the tile patterns and moving from tile patterns to a table and then into a rule eventually here at the end. So go ahead and take a moment and set up your notes. This is our title up here, Tile Patterns to Tables to Rules. And then you're going to want to take a moment to set up each of these figures and draw these squares. I know that might take you a few minutes, so we're going to pause here and you're going to make those. Give yourself room to draw in figure 0 over here and figure 4 and 5. You can also do that on rows below these if you need to. So take a moment and get those set up. Alrighty, so you should have your notes set up with these 3 figures already drawn. You may have a table down below. You can also add that in after we draw in figure 4 and 5 if you would like. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. With tile patterns, we all see them differently. So there's a bunch of different ways that we can see our tile patterns growing and as they progress. So I'm just going to show you guys what I see and how I show my work with these tiles, and we've been doing that a little bit this week, so you should have an idea on that. So I like to just start off with figure 1. In figure 1, I could break this up into some more images, but when I'm just looking at this, I just see, well, we've got this cross shape here. It's 5 tiles, and I can see that continuing in each of these other images. So from going from figure 1 to figure 2, I see that same cross shape. And then I see 2 more tiles being added below here. +1 here, +1 there. Then going over to figure 3, I see that exact same thing. So I see that original kind of cross shape there, 5 tiles. I have those 2 orange ones that were added in figure 2. And then I see 2 more being added along the bottom. +1, +1. So I'm kind of using some different colors to help you see where I personally see these being added. You might see it differently, and that's fine. There's lots of different ways. When you're showing your work on these, you're just picking the one way that you see it, and that's what works great. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's try figure 4. We got to draw some more figures here. Figure 4. So just like these previous ones, I'm going to start off with my cross shape. 1, 2, 3. You will notice this looks pretty bad. That's okay. I'm drawing squares on a non-lined, non-graph sheet of paper. If you have graph paper, that makes this a lot easier. But it's okay for it to be a little bit messy as long as it's clear what's happening. So then I have my 2 orange squares from figure 2. I have my 2 pink squares that were added in figure 3. And for figure 4 here, I'm going to add 2 more blue squares. My figure 4 is a little smaller. That's just because I'm drawing it and I didn't draw these ones, and so it's ending up a little different. That's okay. If I were using a computer, I would probably just have it draw the squares and copy and paste them, but I'm not. Alrighty, so same thing again. I've got my 5 original squares from figure 1. There's figure 2, my squares that were added for figure 3. My squares that were added for figure 4, and I've got to add 2 more squares here for figure 5. Awesome. So we typically, and when we're working with patterns, we give the next 2 patterns But we also want to work backwards. We want to go back to figure 0. And you'll see here later, having this figure 0 really helps us with writing the rule. So now we're working backwards. When we were moving in this direction, each time we were adding 2. If I were to reverse that and move in the other direction, when I go from figure 5 to figure 4, I see that I'm losing 2 tiles. One from from the left side and from the right side. I'm losing 2 tiles, I'm losing 2 tiles, I'm losing 2 tiles. Which means when I go from figure 1 to figure 0, I am going to lose 2 tiles, one from the left side and one from the right side. Which means my figure 0 is just the original 3 squares from the center. So I like to work in the positive direction, see what I'm adding, and then to go from to the 0, I have to reverse that and see what am I taking away when I move in this direction. Awesome, so there's our completed tile pattern. Now I'm going to make it into a table. So this top line on my table, this is the figure number. Figure number, or when we get into graphing here and as we go into our equation, that's our x value. And the bottom line here is going to be the number of tiles. So the number of tiles, and that's our y value. So we have figures 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we just need to count up the number of tiles. So in figure 0, there's 1, 2, 3. As we saw, because we drew it several times, figure 1 has those 3 plus 2 more, so 5. And then I can keep counting, but I also kind of know the pattern. I'm adding 2 each time, which means this one's going to be 7. This one's going to be 9. This one's going to be 9 plus 2 more. And plus 2 more. That's my completed table. That's really all that I need to do. Right now, we are working with what are called linear functions, linear equations, or linear patterns. That means that we are increasing by adding, which means right now we're going to be writing our rule, as you guys have seen, in this format, where we're going to multiply something by x, and then we're going to add something else. And sometimes you might see that there might not be a plus anything, because we might only be adding 0. We might just be multiplying by x. We might be just multiplying by 1 and therefore only adding in our equation. So we got to write this equation, and this is where some people jump ahead and try to move a little quickly, is that we see in our pattern that we are adding 2 each time, and we see that in an equation there's a plus sign, and we think, oh, we've been adding 2. That is not where that goes. That plus sign is not going to be necessarily the same number that we're adding by as we move forward. This plus comes from our 0 figure. When x is 0, no matter what we multiply by 0, we get 0. So no matter what this number is, if x is 0, if we're at figure 0, the number of tiles is based on whatever we are adding in our equation. So 0 times 5, 0 times 4, 0 times 2, it's going to equal 0. So if I need y to equal 3, then we need to add 3. So if you can make your table get to this 0 point here, that 0 term, when x is 0, the y value is what we're adding in our rule or our equation. Now, what we need to come up with next is what we're multiplying x by. So I typically then move to just pick one of these values. So 2 times something plus 3 has to equal 7. And I can kind of write this work off to the side if I'm really working on it. My y value is going to be 7. My x value is 2. and we're going to add 3. So I can solve this like an equation. I can subtract 3 and see that I get 4. So what number times 2 is equal to 4? Well, that would be 2. I like to then check this. So 1 times 2 is 2, plus 3 gives me the 5. And so I want to make sure it works for all of them. You might remember and notice that this number right here is matching what we're adding each time. So when we are looking at our table, whatever we're adding each time, that does become what we're multiplying by. And what 0 is, when x is 0, our y value, is what we are adding. So there's a couple shortcuts there to help you guys make it through figuring out that rule.